You know, it's not a guitar until it has a neck. Otherwise, is it a drum shell? Philosophical questions today. In any case, it's time to build a neck. Or two. So, while you see two pieces of wood here, it was actually one long stick of what was sold as sapele. I'm not entirely sure it is, but a little more on that later. In any case, what I'm doing here is I'm checking for some wobble in the boards to make sure they're not twisted. And the first one seems to pass the test. The second one is going to need a little bit of correction. But before that, the resident safety goat has something to say. So I'm going to need to get a flat reference surface. As you can tell, I don't use this very often. There's more dust than tool here. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the finger swipe. Ah, that's better. And in case you were wondering, yes, this tool scares the you-know-what out of me too. And if I'm honest, it needs a better base that doesn't slip around quite so much. Not spotless, but good enough to go through the planer. Should be about 25 millimeters or 1 inch by the time I'm done here. No. I'm not actually checking for level here. What I'm doing is I'm using these two different colored bubble levels, and they're just functioning as winding sticks to make sure I got all the twist out of the board. And it looks pretty good on camera. If you have a common headstock angle you want to keep using, my suggestion is make an angle gauge of it, much like a speed square. I 3D printed mine. Even though I've made multiple scarf joints, I have messed up a few in my time. So I'm always double and triple checking these dimensions. Plus, I hate wasting wood. I may be single-handedly keeping 3M USA in business with all the masking tape I go through. That is a little bit of an exaggeration, but just a little. Did I need to use the CNC to make a scarf joint? No, absolutely not. But you know what? I'm just gonna. been so long, I don't even remember what this is an offcut of. I just see the biscuits. As you can see, the scarf joint slipped a little bit, but that's no matter. I have plenty of material to get away with that. That offcut will make the heel block later. And now to compensate for that little gap, we're going to move the nut back just a little bit. These are just some build-out blocks for mounting the neck to the jig for the CNC. Book match heel block. Nice. Even though I said I don't like wasting material, it looks like I wasted a lot of material. So while the CNC does its thing, I want to put a question to you, the viewers. I know that a CNC is a luxury tool for most people, and that 3D modeling, which is really required to use the CNC, is a daunting process for those that might even have access to a CNC. To that end, I've been thinking about doing a pair of builds. The same exact design, but on one side it is hand drafted on paper and uses basically standard woodworking tools. Fairly accessible process. And on the other side, I do the 3D modeling workup and what is pretty much my workflow now, which does involve a fair amount of CNC, but isn't entirely dependent upon it. Put your thoughts on this down in the comments. Would you watch a series like this where it's, let's just say, old school versus new school? And I suppose on a wider question, are you just a watcher with no interest in building? Do you think you might build one someday? Are you already a builder, just looking for new tips and techniques? Or are you here for my terrible sense of humor? Let me know. Look, I don't plan on letting the CNC do all the carving in the future. That's not what this is about. In particular, this design is built to be a test bed. I want repeatability because I want to be able to compare individual elements. And to that end, I figured let's take it to the extreme. Let's let the CNC be as precise as it possibly can. Less variables, the better. Plus, I've never CNC carved a neck before, and that comes with a lot of different learning that you have to do to figure out the 3D curvature and whatnot, both in the modeling and in the actual carving process. It's skills and pieces I can take into other parts where it actually is necessary, as opposed to just being an exercise in testing your patience. I will probably retain the carving of the mortise and tenon neck joint in the future on the CNC. Realistically, it's just more precise, and this particular way I have of doing my joint is a little challenging to replicate by other means. Basically an hour and a half to do all the back carving, start to finish? That's not too bad. Faster than me. So now I need to cut away all the supports and tabs left over from the milling process. Was that as lame as I thought it was? Probably. And now it's time to cut some inlays. Whoa, 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 whoa. I said a 0.5 millimeter, not a 1/2 inch. See, that's more like it. This is going to take quite a while, so we'll just kind of skip through the good bits. I did say it would take a while. And now to start milling the fretboard. First things first, we're going to put a radius on this lovely piece of pow ferrule. And then cut the outline. Next, I'll switch over to a 1/16 end mill and cut out the pockets for the inlays. And then some 0.5 millimeter purfling lines. We could be here for a little while. So this is an experimental mix of cherry dust and some copper mica to give it a little sparkle. It actually came out pretty good. and then rerun the same radius pass to clear off the inlays and such. Now that's what I call a nice fit. Neck pocket still isn't quite complete, but it's getting there. Ooh, now that's a nice looking fretboard. I think on that note, I'm going to end this episode. In the next one, it's going to be a binding agreement, playing with the pointy bits, and cutting in a tail graft. I look forward to seeing you there. Until next time.